I talked about this a little bit when we started the show. So when you think of when I think of the military, I think of, well, that's a tough guy. How much pressure do you feel to be this idealized version of macho tough guy?
I think it's again going to be different depending on your service, depending on your job. So I was a paratrooper, and where Sergeant Vegan came about is because I went overboard because I was getting a lot, like you would expect, a lot of crap for being vegan. So I went overboard. My PT scores I was almost perfect, 299 out of 300. When I was double lapping someone,
What's a PT score?
Oh, physical training score. So when I was lapping someone, I would say it's because you're not vegan or something like that. I would go overboard. So Sergeant Vegan was this persona I created that was basically like Sergeant Slaughter, if you remember, like 80s wrestling and G.I. Joe and stuff, where I would go over the top to be the strongest, fittest, fastest, and as everyone knows who's watching this, or not, maybe not everyone, but most people, on a plant-based diet, if you've seen Game Changers, you can get big, you can get strong, you can get fast. Being vegan, it's really not that big of a deal. So that wasn't a problem, and that's how I dealt with the pressure to conform, just to overdo the pro-vegan cheerleading.
And I want to hear from Charles, who decided to go vegan mid-military, right? I do want to hear from that, but before we get to Charles, let me just ask you, did you turn anyone, not that you were trying to turn anyone vegan, but did people listen to you? Did they sort of look at your performance and go, wait a minute, there's something here?
Okay, I definitely changed some minds as far as what I was usually the first vegan or vegetarian that people were meeting. So they were like, some people were like, oh, okay, before I thought you guys were hippie, commie, wackadoodles, and now I just see this guy who is being consistent with his beliefs, and it's not that weird. Now, a majority of the people that I knew, when we deployed to Afghanistan, nobody changed anything when they're in war. You don't give up smoking, you don't decide to become an atheist, and you don't change your diet while you're in a war zone. So, no, some of those people, we had interesting conversations, but nobody was like, okay, from this day forward, I'm not going to eat. I mean, they could see that it was kind of difficult sometimes for me to find food, so they weren't going to add another pressure, you know, in addition to, like, will we get blown up today? Worried about what breakfast is going to be. So.
Right, you're looking for consistency,
Roger.
And I would think that the military would provide that for you, which is why they have all your meals for you. They have beds and everything set up. What sort of pressure did you feel once you decided to go vegan mid-military? That's kind of interesting to me.
Right. I potentially might be I'm certainly the only fighter pilot in my community that I know of that is vegan. There's a couple guys that are pretty close, but I think I'm the only one that categorizes myself as being vegan. So it's a lot of pressure. And I had friends that came straight up to me and would ask me, like, in a kind of a serious way, off the record, like, what is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? Potentially joking, but at the same time, when it's people that I'd spent a lot of time with, so I can kind of tell, I can read their voice that they're actually kind of serious. So that was kind of surprising. And then I would say the only time that I've seen any interest has been not in front of anyone else. So they'll come to me, they'll kind of catch me offline and have some questions that show a little bit of interest, and they'll ask me how I got started, and I'll kind of talk them through my journey of how I got started and what kind of tripped the wire for me to get started, and they seem very interested. I haven't necessarily then seen anyone go from start to finish and then become vegan, but I've definitely had a lot of, I guess, questions about how I got started.
And I'm curious for you, because you come from a military family, I'm curious how your family handled this.
Initially, there's a lot of pushback. They're not vegan. They definitely have cut back, though. For example, I know that my family's been on like the Impossible Whopper. They definitely tried the Impossible Whopper, and I've even seen my family try vegan options now at restaurants multiple times, which to me is, that's a step in the right direction. I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take it for sure. This is tricky because we don't have all the time in the world to discuss this like I would like. But starting with Charles, and then I'll end with Bill, aka Sergeant Vegan. What does it mean to you, Charles, to be a tough guy? Or maybe even I'll expand that, because there's so much about being a macho man, advertising says, and I feel so bad for men because I think they're sold a really bad bill of goods that to be a tough guy, to be a real man, you basically have to damage your health. That's my take on some of the ads that we see. So I'm curious, what does it mean for you to be a quote unquote real man or tough guy?
I think currently my understanding of that would be to be consistent with what you believe in. So what this has taught me so far, this vegan journey, is that even though I'm singled out as the only one that's vegan, I've stuck to it the whole time. So to have an open mind to get started in the first position, and then to stick to it, to something that you believe in, is by far tougher than well, I don't know, crawling through the mud, flying when you're tired, any of those things. The day in, day out struggle of doing something that you believe in and sticking to your beliefs, I think, is makes you more of a tough guy.
I'll go with that.
People won't always necessarily respect your beliefs or respect why you're doing things, but they'll respect your intestinal fortitude to stick with something no matter what. And I think that's what it is to be tough, number one. Number two, I want to go back to something we were talking about people being hesitant to go vegan, whether in the Army or the Navy. I think that's because of one thing and one thing only. That's negative stereotypes that were propagated about being vegan. And I think we need to, as vegans, we need to accept that it's often from vegans themselves that would basically put these stereotypes that you have to be hippies, you have to be the stereotypical long hair patchouli, whatever. And if you're not that, you're not vegan. And that's why when guys would meet Charlie or myself and then say like, oh, vegan is this, they're weak, they're this, that, and the other. And the media definitely does a good job of keeping that stereotype. But who started it? It was the vegans themselves. It was the vegans that never hit the gym, looked like that they would die if they did a push-up. And all the negatives were true. So we're here to kind of change that, to reset what it is to be vegan.